15 out of 10. This episode gets a 15 out of 10. Now I know that my rating system makes no sense to anyone but me, but I'm gonna try to explain why I think this episode is a 15 out of 10. And of course, I can give you a one-word answer, and you automatically understand why this episode is a 15 out of 10. Satoko. Yeah, do I need to explain any more? I probably should. Episode 4 of Higurashi When They Cry Sotsu is basically the episode of how Satoko set up Watana Damashi Hen. And I'm gonna be honest here, this episode was one of the most interesting episodes to see because we saw the process Satoko went through just to achieve everything she needed for this arc to occur. Like, we saw how she procured a gun and how she got the trust of Mion so that Mion put her guard down behind her. And, well, she got injected. Though, of course, before I go on to talking about the Mion parts of this episode, you know that I need to talk about probably one of the more interesting aspects of this episode. The new relationship between Teppei and Satoko. Is it me, or are you also still weirded out by this? Like, I know Teppei is turning a new leaf, and he's actually showing more proof that, this new characterization of him is to stay. But at the same time, it's still slightly strange to see. Though, of course, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I am rooting for this new Teppei to, become a better person. Like, we're already seeing signs that he is improving, for which I give him a hand for that. Still, at the same time, after rereading the Higurashi manga, like I'm currently reading the Higurashi manga, it's so weird seeing the Sotsu go Teppei compared to the old Teppei. It's so weird seeing the differences between the two of them. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but Satoko Teppei is actually a character I really enjoy, which I don't know how this has happened. I'm liking Teppei now? What? Anyways, the new relationship between Satoko and Teppei, I have to say, it actually seems pretty good, even though we just know that Satoko is using Teppei because, come on, I don't think Satoko would actually hang out with her uncle, even if he turned a new leaf, and that's perfectly reasonable. Yeah, her uncle did a bunch of horrible stuff to her. I don't blame her for not wanting to hang out with him. But the scene after they went to the horse derby, for which I'm gonna be honest here, that was really clever of Satoko to bet on horses because she's in a time loop. She could probably see the results of the, horse races. So she could probably, go to a horse race. Well, probably with Teppei because she's way too young to go herself. And she could probably bet on the winning horse, which she did in this episode, for which I thought that was a really clever plan to get money for Satoko because, well, that's the easiest way to get money. Just bet on the correct horse in a horse race. Actually, if I'm ever in a time loop, I'm gonna look up the results of horse races because that is actually one of the most smartest things one can do. Cheat in a horse race by going in a time loop. That's actually like the fastest get money quick scheme. But moving on to the most interesting part with Satoko and Teppei is the scene afterwards where they have a drink together after their results at the derby. Now, I knew that Satoko was just trying to get, Teppei drunk in order to, to get the number of the guy she was going to buy the gun from. But I thought the thing that was really interesting in that scene is drunk Teppei apologizing to Satoko again. For which, that is just like one of the most interesting parts of this episode. Because, I'm gonna sound like a terrible person here, but I was kind of getting scared when Teppei was getting drunk because I thought, he was gonna get violent when he's drunk, but no. Instead, he got kind of gloomy and sad, for which I actually did feel really bad. For one, I felt bad for him because he's actually genuinely trying to be a better person for Satoko, and for two, I automatically thought he was gonna fall back to old habits as soon as he started drinking again. Yeah, I feel really bad for that. Yeah, no, I actually feel extremely bad for assuming that. I'm so sorry, everyone. But anyways, with all the stuff that Satoko did in this episode, leading up to her buying the gun, I have a question about that scene, actually. Yeah, you know what? Yeah, I have a question about that scene. Why did she put the bullets in the bullet holder, put it in the gun, and then cock it in the car with the guy? What was she planning to do with that? Because she has an active gun on right in front of this dude. She has an active gun at this point, so I'm like thinking, is she gonna shoot him? Or is she just gonna walk around with an already loaded gun? Because, that's just a recipe for a misfire. I mean, she did get some training with Mion about how to use a gun, but, I would think she have known that, as soon as you cock a gun with bullets in it, there's an active bullet in there. Now, I don't really know how guns work, so I might be wrong while saying this, but, after that scene, I just have to wonder, did she shoot the gun a few times? Because, that gun's active by what she did at the end of that scene. That gun is actually active, so what did she do with it after she loaded it? I really have a lot of concerns about that because, yeah, that's an active gun she has on her. And to end off this review, I actually have another question because, well, the majority of this episode, that wasn't Satoko formulating her plans or, setting up her plans, that's what I meant to say. We really just saw mostly repetitive content until the very end when Satoko injected Mion. And my question for that scene is, how did she inject Mion? That's actually a really good question. How in the hell did she inject Mion? Because I feel like that would have been a much harder task than injecting Rena when she was asleep. Because Mion is fully awake, and she's actually a lot more active than Rena. So how did Satoko manage to inject Mion without Mion fighting back? I really wonder about that because we never actually saw Satoko inject Mion. Like, we didn't see her do it. So that brings up the question, how was she able to do it without Mion suspecting a thing? Or did Mion suspect a thing when she was getting jabbed with a random needle out of nowhere? How did Satoko inject Mion? That's a really good question. I wish we saw her do it so that this question would be answered. Or was this on purpose? Was this on purpose? We didn't see Satoko inject Mion. And even though we did see an empty needle nearby the vending machine. That's what that's called, right? A vending machine? I don't remember. What is that called? But we saw the needle nearby the machine that Mion was at, and it was empty. Now, that could be the needle with the syndrome in it. Or it could just be a random heroin needle that looks very similar to the virus syringe. What kind of theory am I getting on? Am I going on a theory of Satoko decided not to inject Mion just there because, Mion definitely has the advantage if she catches on to what Satoko is doing? Because, I'm gonna be honest here, everything in that setup did not look like good news to Satoko because I don't think Mion would let Satoko inject her with something random out of the blue. Like, seriously, no, I have a lot of questions about that. How did she inject Mion? Because in that whole scenario, right before, she supposedly injected Mion, it seems like Mion could still, fight back against Satoko from injecting her with whatever she was trying to inject her with. And also at the same time, even if she did inject her with something, Mion would still cause a scene because Satoko just stabbed her with something from a syringe. Like, seriously, everything in that scene was just weird. It was just weird. How would Satoko inject Mion? Did she even inject Mion at all? Like I said, that could have been a random heroin needle that was not connected to what Satoko was trying to do to Mion. Rather than injecting Mion, Satoko realized, oh crap, maybe this is not the right time, and hides the syringe in her pocket or something, and waits for a later date. And what happens if at this later date, after choosing not to inject Mion, she confuses the twins and injects Shion instead? The idea that Shion could have been still the person who was affected with Himizawa syndrome can be still alive very much because we didn't see Satoko inject Mion. Rikishi really pulled a Stronger's cat on all of us, and I hate myself for making this joke because it's Stronger's cat. Of course, a cat box in a When They Cry work. What else would you expect?
Okay.